The favored son and newly minted hero of Patriots Nation finally returns. That's right. Drake Maye had his first media availability / press conference of 2025. What did he say? How did he look? How's he feeling? And is he as fired up as the rest of Patriots Nation is for the upcoming season after a banger of free agency and a kick-ass draft? Live from the Fitzatorium and a utility closet at Gillette Stadium, Fitzy and Mego are here to react to Drake Maye's first presser of 2025 on a live Six Rings of Football Things. Here we go.
Hey, whatever it takes, man. It's all about winning, all right? Winning on three. 1, 2, 3, win!
Celebrating the heroes of Foxborough's past.
Hannah with a good block. Look at Grover. All the way. Watch the block of number 73, John Hannah.
The champions of the dynastic era.
Adam Vinatieri booms a 48-yard field goal, and the Patriots are Super Bowl champions.
The Patriots of tomorrow.
We're going to remove entitlement from our football team. We're going to earn the right to be here every single day.
And the fans whose faith never wavers.
Let's go!
This is Six Rings and Football Things.
Why, indeed, we thank ye of good Foxborough faith and football cheer for joining us on a Thursday afternoon as we record the latest Six Rings and Football Things. Your old pal, Nick Fitzy Stevens here. And, of course, joining me from Gillette Stadium, fresh off Drake Maye's first avail of the season, the fabulous and talented Mego, at Megan _ Ottolini. Yes, Drake Maye just met the Patriots media cartel and Boston sports media at large for the first time in 2025, armed with his signature $1 million smile, aw shucks demeanor, a fresh cut, and a killer Patriots throwback sweatshirt. Drake showed up 30 minutes late for his media avail. All I'm saying is, Mego, Jordan Hudson would never let him be that.
Or would it have been even later? Because if Jordan was involved,
that's right.
Maybe there would be some storming out and storming
There could be
back
histrionics like Stacy. We're not talking about that. No, we're not. Drake's not talking about Joe Milton questions. Never would have been answered if Jordan was his flack. All right, so you were there. You got to see him buzz in, do like 10 minutes of questions, and then as soon as the Joe Milton question was asked, buzz right off the stage without any follow-ups. What did you think?
To be fair, that was after we had already gotten the final 2 questions call. So Phil Perry had gotten that one in. So it was a little bit scheduled that way. I think Phil felt, okay, we got to ask this Joe Milton, the third question, of course, of NBC Sports Boston, by the way. We got to get this in here with our availability with Drake. So I don't think it was one of these situations where it's like, that's it. Cut the media off. They're out of control. I don't think that's what was happening.
Right. I think for a while, like, a couple minutes late is one thing, a few minutes late, but then it got to a point where I was legitimately concerned. Like, is he sick? Did he have to leave? Did he check out early? What's going on? For all we know, as you were texting me there, just sort of like, I think you wrote like, nope, we're all just sort of sitting here twiddling our thumbs, waiting for Drake. I think the predominant line of thinking that he may have come out a few minutes late was, maybe he was held up in a meeting with Vrabel or Josh McDaniels, et cetera. But that's now long in the past. We have reviewed that. What we're focused on now are his very Drake Maye answers, the first things we've heard about anything related to the new team, the new
Drake
head
face.
coach. Yeah.
Fred, I know this is an audio platform predominantly, but he does still do the glare through the eyebrows.
No, it's he does that sort of like curious furrowed brow, like, not sure I ever heard that one before. Like it's kind of like the G Willikers face. Well, gee whiz, I'm not sure if no one ever talked to me like that before. Media was very nice. Questions were not difficult. The Joe Milton question obviously was the last one. I heard our boys on the midday show on WEI a few minutes ago having a gas with the idea, like Drake said that, hopefully Joe can go somewhere and compete to be a backup. After he talked about them having similar skills and similar physical traits, Mego, to which I, like many, would want to first naturally ask, well, wouldn't it behoove the Patriots to have somebody as a backup to Drake whose skill set our starting quarterback just said emulates his rather well?
Um, I guess. I mean, I gotta be honest, Fitzy, like I'm a little bit ready to move on from the Joe Milton the third conversation, just because we know what the quarterback room is shaping up to be. They went out and they paid Josh Dobbs in the offseason. They
Mm.
wanted a veteran presence behind him to seemingly help support him better. And Joe Milton was interested in competing for a starting job. He feels like he's in a better place to do that down in Dallas. And he's a 6th round pick. I mean, I just I'm kind of at the point where I'm like, I know people want to make this into something where they think it reflects on Drake's character. They think it reflects on his competitiveness. They think it reflects on his comfort level with having somebody who would maybe be seen as direct competition just because they were drafted in the same class.
Right. A
I,
child
I,
with a strong arm and like the and
I just
mobility.
I just
Yeah.
think it was a little bit more situational than that. Like, I understand that the idea of quarterback competition, quarterback scandal, or having personalities clashing in the quarterback room is always like the juiciest fodder in the
Mhm.
NFL. I
Mhm.
just think it was a situation where it was like one guy doesn't really want to be here in the role that he's in. He thinks he has a better shot elsewhere, and they're in the same class. And the Patriots have seen that sour in other situations or in very close classes in the past. So let's just make it a different, more functional kind of quarterback room.
Yeah, I get it. And also we have to, as we have been making a point of reminding people all off season long, Mike Vrabel wants to put together a team that he's comfortable with. He wants those Vrabros. He wants guys that he has previously coached that he can trust to be professionals. And while he may respect the
Oh no,
may go in the dark if you're watching live as we were
you keep
playing Six Rings. I think there was like a motion sensor light in her
you
broom
keep
closet at
talking.
Gillette Stadium.
I'm
It's
gonna
now the
turn this back on.
it's
This
the
is legit
Mego Witch
podcasting.
Project. This is classic. Oh, I hope we always want you to subscribe and listen on Apple Pod, Spotify, the Odyssey app, whatever. But I got to tell you,
Hold on.
wait, hold on a
You
second.
keep
No,
going.
the Patriots didn't like that answer you just gave, and they were like, "I don't like this line of questioning
That
from
kind
Fitzy and
answer.
Mego." They just cut the lights out on Mego. That was amazing. Uh, I understand. It's just, it's just that the skill set of Joe Milton seemed similar enough to Drake Maye that it would behoove the team to have somebody that can kind of mimic so much of what Drake Maye does. I mean, rolling out, throwing laser rockets, the bombs away. Obviously, Drake is a greater processor. I had the pleasure of speaking to Daniel, the guy behind at Scout D NFL recently, and he told me about that I think it's called the AIQ test now. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mego, if you know. But basically, they've moved on from the Wonderlic test,
Mm.
and now there's this AIQ test that they give to quarterbacks to gauge their processing speed. And Drake Maye, whose dad was going to be a quarterback, but then had an injury and has been in a family full of athletes, has kind of just been watching sports and especially watching film and breaking it down his whole life, which is why he was just basically developed and groomed for this and has been ready for the opportunity. Daniel at Scout DNFL said, from what he heard, Drake may have had the best score of any quarterback since they switched over to this AIQ test. His processing, it's all about like matching colors and shit, like just assembling things and assessing situations quickly. And, what we saw last year and what we've heard from previous head coach Gerard Mayo and Alex Van Pelt is no lie that his processing speed is crazy. So that could be light years ahead of Joe Milton. You add in not wanting any controversy behind competitive dynamics and the trust in Josh Dobbs to be a good scout team quarterback that can emulate other QBs, plus somebody that Mike Vrabel trusts that Josh McDaniels will love working with because he'll be like, one of those Brian Hoyer level assistant coach / backup QBs. And it makes sense. And it's totally time to move on from it. But I'm glad at least it was addressed today. It would have been weird if it was never brought up.
Yeah, because it's the first time we talked to him since it happened. So, of course, it was addressed. And I think he did a nice job mostly answering that question. So, we'll see if we get to see Joe Milton the third down the line. Maybe he'll fill in for Dak Prescott and Dak Prescott, the way he did Tony Romo with an
Right.
injury, because Dak is often injured. So we could
I
see
think
that in the future.
I think Dak was the last quarterback not taken in the first round to start a season off for his team. Before that, it was Russell Wilson in 2012. Dak, obviously, a 4th-round draft pick out of Mississippi State, who, while he pipped Romo when Romo was was injured, and then ultimately done, and a year later in the booth with Jim Nantz. Let's get back to some of the other things he had to say. I think a lot of people were very curious to hear him talk about his new best friend, his Biff, his bro, his blindside protector, his bodyguard, Will Campbell, who said he'd die up on that stage, whatever he could do to protect his quarterback. So someone asked him what he thought about Will Campbell, who he tweeted about the night of the draft. Here's what Drake had to say about Will Campbell.
Yeah, listen to it live. Man, as gets you going, your juice is going. I think it makes you want to go out there and play football now. So, pumped that we picked Will, and we had a chance to meet him when he came in and flew in on Friday. So, pumped to get things going.
So he's a football player, pumped to get working with him, and quote, get the juices flowing. Okay, all right. All right. I hadn't really thought about that one, but there still does seem to be. Did it feel like did this presser feel perfunctory in person, or did it feel like there was some genuine excitement to kind of like get back into the process with Drake, or was it a combination of the two?
I think it was probably a little bit more the former. I think you're reading that the right way. It's so early in the process for these guys that a lot of what they are doing is meetings and studying and really getting to know one another. I think that's one thing that came through in a lot of this press conference from Drake is that there's just not a ton of carryover from last year. When he was even asked by somebody about, hey, we're hearing about all the new guys that you're meeting and the new coaching staff that you have. What's something that you're carrying over from last year? And he basically talked about having to eliminate the negative plays and then that marrying that with the new protection that he's going to be in, including Will Campbell. And I really think that that's going to be the biggest test for Drake this entire upcoming preseason, training camp, and then the season. Because last year, Drake had, kind of every excuse in the world. Okay, the wide receivers, not only are we not sure about their talent level with some of the younger guys, but they're not even running the routes correctly. Their spacing's entirely off. So he's got nobody to throw to. And meanwhile, he's making everything happen for himself behind the offensive line that he was behind last year. With the improvements that they've made across the board, maybe they're not as flashy and great and elite as everybody wants. He is kind of out of excuses for when things go wrong. So I do think that the biggest jump that he's going to have to make this year, and he identified it himself, is those negative plays, taking sacks when they're in field goal range on a third down is one thing he mentioned. Obviously, the interceptions. We are going to get to a point in this upcoming season where if he doesn't look remarkably different in those turnover scenarios and sacks compared to last year, it's going to be probably the first time that people start pointing the finger at the quarterback.
Yes, because he got a free pass last year. Like and nobody judged him for having to come in that ghastly situation. The whole Peyton Manning led the league in interceptions, then the next year led the league in touchdowns, and people are hoping for a similar turnaround, or should I say not turnaround, but evolution and growth from Drake Maye on hooking up with Josh McDaniels. He said, quote, he's been an offensive coordinator. He's been a head coach. He does it at a high level. His stuff works. He coached the best to ever do it. So it's pretty cool getting to watch old things that Tom did. I'm sure Josh McDaniels is not doing a daily now this is how Tom Brady did it, and gee damn it, you're all going to come in here and do it the way that I want it done because he did it that way. I'm sure if we're to believe the reports of Josh McDaniels going through a play caller, offensive coordinator, spiritual football evolution and growth during the offseason, then his playbook will evolve. It'll have the tenets and some of the play calls and language, which Drake talked about learning now, and the receivers going through the same process. But it should look similar, yet different. Tailor cut to this unique and outstanding skill set of running, processing, and strong-armed quarterback play that Drake Maye brings to the table. Let me ask you this: have you thought about this? Tom Curran posited this the other day on the midday show that maybe at the start of the season, Josh McDaniels will try to rein Drake Maye in a little bit, kind of the way that he baby stepped Mac Jones back in 2021. Let's forget last year. You were just kind of winging it. The receivers couldn't figure blank all out. Now we got better receivers. Now we got a better line. And now I believe I'm a better play caller for you. So let's start slow, eliminate the turnovers, don't take the sacks, no negative plays, and grow into letting you grip it and rip it, kind of the way Matt Castle did from hand student body left, student body right when he first took over for Brady in 2008 to being the only quarterback in Patriots history to throw for 400 plus yards in back-to-back games.
Yeah, Fitzy, I think that's a very logical starting point with the McDaniels Drake May relationship. And maybe it'll be something where they can kind of even work that out in preseason and we see a little more Drake uncorked as the regular season starts. I think it's all about how quickly, as you were talking about his processing earlier, he's able to pick up these offensive concepts. The new language that they're communicating with on offense was a big thing he talked about today. And so I wouldn't be surprised if if it's a lot more Drake contained, Drake
Yep.
court at the beginning of the season
Mm-hmm.
compared to what we saw last year when really he was their only weapon. I mean, what he could do with his own legs last year was probably the most exciting thing about the offense on most game days. And I think that's going to be different this year. I also would be curious because something that we saw so little of last year were designed runs for Drake May. And so I wonder if it will be not so much him, breaking free because of what he has to do with the lack of protection around him and taking off, and more a marriage of, okay, we're doing things to protect the football and take the check down when needed and avoid the sack and make sure that we're making positive progress down the field, but also working in a little bit of design plays, especially in the red zone, because I think that's something that we didn't get to see a ton of from him last year.
As we record the latest Six Rings and Football things here for Spotify, Odyssey, Apple Pod, and so much more, and we broadcast across the WEEI and Fitzy GFY socials. Mike Dickinson, who's watching live on Facebook, says Travion Henderson in round 2 was about helping Drake May in the passing game. He didn't have a back that could catch the ball like that last year, and Josh saw that. To which I would say Drake should have just been thrilled overall at the draft. He gets Kyle Williams, the best natural separator, many said, of all wide receivers in the draft. He gets Will Campbell. And a new center in Jared Wilson who could supplant Garrett Newbury, Garrett Newmer, whatever, the Garrett Bradbury this season.
Yes.
Who knows what the line is going to look like, but this kid is by all accounts a steal. Travion Henderson, phenomenal pass catcher, best blocking running back, some have said, to come out in 25, 30 years. And he's got the best top line speed at 22 miles per hour as well. Drake must be so psyched to know that there are going to be options. A good running game will take pressure off of him. Good receivers like Steph Diggs, who he talked about having on his fantasy team when he first was playing fantasy football in high school, now being available. Like, I know this felt perfunctory and obligatory. Like, let's just get this first one out of the way, and I got to hightail it to vacation, a meeting or something. But he's got to be so excited to get to work with all the talent that the Patriots have brought in for him.
Yeah, I would agree. Again, I do think that, like, because everybody is riding so high off of what's being graded as a great Patriots draft, at least in the immediate aftermath, we're all going to be looking towards mini camp and looking towards training camp and looking for things to click right away. We got to keep in mind there are going to be, some stutters, some starts and stops with this offense. Once again, I think we should look at the defense being far ahead of the offense when we go into the next program. Yeah, as you said, they're kind of in the second stage of their offseason program. And we know just a couple weeks ago, like, defense had already started their install. Now, a lot of times, like, the defensive install is a little bit easier than the offensive concepts. But at the same time, like, there's just so much new happening on the offense. There's a huge benefit to that where we're all excited about it. But on the other side, there's going to be some growing pains.
There will be, for sure. And, there's going to be a level of tolerance and understanding and patience first deployed by Josh McDaniels and head coach Mike Vrabel, but they're also famously difficult to please and hard-o football guys, to which Drake Maye had to say about his first impressions of working with Mike Vrabel, who is quite the opposite of Gerard Mayo, no disrespect intended to anybody. He said, quote, "It's been awesome. It's been great with coach. Just coming in here, it seems like he's been here a while already. He's so comfortable. You can see just trying to install that new identity." It's kind of like like we said, a little bit of a generic response as well. I'm sure he doesn't want to go too lavish with his praise, but also say anything that would get him a talking to, or, label him a kiss ass. But he did get asked also about leadership. Now, at the event that I was fortunate enough to work a few weeks ago to benefit Doug Kyde at Vitamin C Brewing, where Pop Douglas was kind enough to swing through and talk to the crowd for 20 minutes. He said Drake Maye is absolutely stepping up his game in terms of being a leader. He's more vocal. He's present. He knows what this opportunity is. He knows he has to take charge. And he was asked about that once again today. And I thought this answer was pretty interesting, Mego.
Your teammates have mentioned how much you've grown as a leader this year. I'm wondering, is that something you've been focused on, and what goes into trying to be a leader when you are?
Yeah, I mean, not something that, I mean, obviously, comes with position, and, I like to hopefully call myself this year a leader, and I think working towards that. I think just earning the guys' respect, a lot of new faces in here, come in here and work hard and, show those guys that we picked up in free agency or the rookies or guys we picked up, just kind of my work ethic. I think kind of, start from that standpoint, show the coaches. I think once you get, new staff and new players, you want to show them, hey, it's not relaxed time. I think, once I'm going to be the starter, just, keep things, pushing forward and we're saying more than, in whether in walkthrough or little things like that, just kind of build that. And
so one thing we all learned today is that when it's chill out time or time to take a break, Drake Maye calls it relax time. So that was around a May house. Now we know there's work time and relax time. And also it's like, this is where the ease with which he does things comes across to me. Like, it doesn't seem like anything there's like, well, I got to do this to do that. Like, just like I'm integrating new guys. There's free agents, there's rookies, there's the guys that were here. And, we'll know when it's time to put our foot down on the gas and when it's not. Like, this is what gives me confidence that nothing that comes from Vrabel, nothing that comes from McDaniels, and nothing that comes from his new teammates, including Steph Diggs, who we know can be vocal and opinionated and very assertive, will be too much or overwhelming for Drake in year 2.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree, Fitzy. I think Drake has some qualities that are just very natural. He's very comfortable in his own skin. I think that he's very self-aware and has a silly side too. And as we know, he's the youngest of all those brothers. And so he's like used to taking it and giving it back. And I think it's impossible to talk about this kind of subject without the comparison to Mac Jones, where I don't think that Mac had those qualities as naturally. And I think Mac very much wanted to be one of the guys. And Drake is, think about it. Last year, the position he was in, he wasn't a captain. He was the backup quarterback to start the season.
Because he wouldn't be on the team this year.
Yeah. And so I think, like if you think about it, having to all of a sudden be the leader of the team halfway through the season, he was put in kind of an awkward position in that way, even though it was his big opportunity and he stepped into it really well. And but there's a lot of situations in which that could have gone entirely sideways. And so when you talk about other personalities in the room, be it Steph Diggs or the coaching staff being really, tough-hearted football guys or anything like that, like that is just so low on my list of concerns because I think it is something that he talks about working at and being conscious of, but he's also kind of a natural with, if you know what I mean.
100%. So he's on stage a few minutes late. NBD shows up a little bit more than 10 minutes, fields questions from the Phil Perrys, the Taylor Kyles, the Andrew Callahans. Did I hear your voice?
Yeah.
I know your voice a million miles away. It was
so annoying. Such an annoying voice.
It. I read a long article recently about why people hate their own voice and other people like it. So
I thought it was going to be about why people hate women's voices.
No, stop that. No, that's not here. No, we are on to a progressive new world, an all-inclusive football appreciating
world.
We're
not talking about that.
Yeah, we're not
talking about that.
Hey, we're not talking about that. Oh boy, jeez. I know. Thank God we got through a whole podcast without having to address Jordan more than a quick quip from yours truly at the top of the show. All right. Well,
you got 4 hours for that.
Oh God. Here we go again. All right. Well, I'm glad you were there, Mego. Glad Drake met with the media. We've moved on from that as well. A couple other avails over the week. Christian Ellis was there too, right?
Yes, yeah, and he talked about getting his contract, and it was a really nice moment because he talked about all the different times that he's been cut. I think he said he was cut 6 or 7 different times, and so to be able to get this contract, life-changing money for him and his family, and those stories are always just, they're awesome to hear.
In and amongst all the tales of people getting drafted and rewarded handsomely, like Will Campbell, lavishly overpaid to leave one team that just won the Super Bowl and join this one in Milton Williams, it's nice to have an underdog good guy story like Christian Ellis, who actually was one of the few guys who, when given the opportunity last year on the insufficient roster of 2024, made the most of his opportunity. And now he and Spillane and others will be part of that fast, aggressive, assertive Terrell Williams, Mike Vrabel defense. As always, a pleasure, Miss Megan Ottolini. Give her a follow at Megan_Ottolini. She's on the weekends on EEI. And of course, she joins us on Mondays to talk Celtics, Greg Hill Show on Wednesdays, and read her great work at weei.com. I got to grab a quick shower and then go do 4 hours of radio. Your old pal Fitzy GFY here. thanking you all for joining me and Mego for another Six Rings and Football Things episode. We will be back next week to discuss the undrafted free agents. Patriots signing 18, Mego, which seems like that's a double Belichick
It's so
load.
crazy.
Everyone in the chat when we were recording live today was going nuts for like, I like this. I like Kism. I like Larson. Like, can we just take a minute? Like, I'm not even done, having my post Travion Henderson cigarette, for God's sakes. Like, let's all just relax and take the time to get to know these guys before their rookie mini camps, OTAs, and more. So we'll be back next week with some fresh pods, a couple OTAs, over the air pods coming at you this week from Tom Curran, Mike Giardi, and more. Till then, you guys take care. Keep in touch with us here at Six Rings Pod. And as always, Viva the Drake.